President Biden is commuting the sentences of nearly 1,500 people and pardoning 39 people convicted of nonviolent crimes in what the White House officials call the largest single-day act of clemency in modern history. It is indeed a very big time. I'm joined now by my panel, Michael Imhotep, host of the African History Network out of Detroit, Michigan. Rebecca Carruthers, she's vice president of the Fair Elections Center in Washington, D.C., and Matt Manning, civil rights attorney out of Corpus Christi, Texas. You know, I think that this is really something, Michael, especially when we look at the nonviolent offenders, but such a big number. You know, I've heard people say, you know, he pardoned his son. Certainly he needed to pardon many, many people to show that it wasn't just his son he was worried about.
Well, I had no doubt that Joe Biden was going to pardon a number of people. So I wasn't worried about that. I heard people talking about that in the media, and that, you know, first of all, if you thought that he wasn't going to pardon his son after Trump won, you don't understand politics.
True.
No, Biden said that when he thought he was going to win. Okay, but when Trump won, and then he started nominating these jackasses who are totally unqualified for the job, started nominating people like Kash Patel, started nominating people like Robert F. Kennedy, started nominating people who were the architects of Project 2025, like Tom Homan and things of this nature. So yeah, and I 100% agree with Joe Biden. And anybody whose son was in a position to be further persecuted by somebody like Donald Trump and his quote unquote Department of Justice. And we know Trump has no guardrails on him. Okay. No morals. Anybody who wouldn't save their son is probably lying to you. So this 1,500, this was expected. More are coming also. Biden said more are coming. You have 1,500 who had commuted sentences. These are nonviolent offenders. These were people who were already placed on home confinement during the coronavirus pandemic and have successfully reintegrated into society and with their families, things of this nature. So this is good. More are to come. There were also 39 pardons. Somebody who I would recommend he pardons is Marilyn Mosby. Okay.
Right. Former about her.
State's attorney out of Baltimore. Also a posthumous pardon for Marcus Garvey. Okay, because Marcus Garvey was deported after he was convicted on wire fraud and mail fraud, and his sentence was commuted, if I remember correctly, but he was deported out of the United States. Marcus Garvey needs a posthumous pardon. Those are the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense who are still in prison. Assata Shakur, who was liberated and taken into Cuba, she needs a presidential pardon as well. So there are other people who need pardons as well as commutations.
You know, Rebecca, I think it's really interesting in that because so many of these people actually were able to prove themselves during COVID. They got out of jail and they worked themselves back into the community and their families. COVID actually proved to be a good thing, a program almost to show what people could do if they were let out, and then were successful in doing so.
Well, here's the thing. One thing that we understand about the criminal legal system in this country is that it's ineffective. So having people, especially nonviolent offenders, in prison for decades and decades simply doesn't seek the final aims of justice. It's not just, we know that locking people up doesn't actually rehabilitate either. And it isn't always the disincentive for potential reoccurring offenders. And so, I mean, that's just the first thing here. But of course, President Biden has many other people that he should be pardoning. One thing that I would say, and regardless of president, is that we do need to have a better system when it comes to presidential pardons, instead of it being more well-heeled people, or if a famous celebrity connects to someone and raises their particular plight, they have the possibility of being pardoned. There are literally thousands of people who are within the federal penitentiary system who should also be considered for pardon. But if we have a better system in order to for those people to be able to either be pardoned or for their sentences to be commuted, it would actually be fairer for everybody.
Matt, what do you make of what the White House is calling the largest single day of clemency in modern history?
I think it's good. I think it is, consistent with what I've seen even here on the state side with the state of Texas having passed a law, I think a couple sessions ago, where it gives judges a lot of power to grant clemency. And I think Rebecca kind of started talking about this or alluded to this, but I think one of the things that you can extrapolate from this and really the conversations that we're having these days about clemency is that the overall sentiment about criminal justice and, lock them up, hang them high, so to speak, has shifted. People recognize now that you should not only have the opportunity to redeem yourself and show that, you can be a good person in society and a good contributor to society, but beyond that, the idea that we're just draconian sometimes, we're punishing people for far too long, far too harshly. So I think it's good that the White House has done this. I agree with Rebecca and Michael. I think they need to do it more. And I think especially in the context now, knowing that the Supreme Court is saying the president can basically do whatever he wants, Joe Biden should do a whole lot more of this before January 20th.
Michael, I want to go back to you. The types of people that were pardoned. I mean, you went into the fact that other people should be pardoned. Certainly, there are going to be more to come. But what about the who that was pardoned? I mean, we have someone who was part of a scheme to put young people back in juvenile facilities for money. And when we think about what the president said, he said that those people who have proven themselves and responsible being back into the community, it seems, some of them could be a little questionable when you look at the list.
Well, yeah. You're going to have people who are questionable. I mean, they were criminals. So, I mean, you're going to have people who are questionable. But anytime you have a president in their last 2 months, 3 months, 1 month, you're going to have different people campaigning, pushing, utilizing the people inside the president's camp to get pardons for their friends, for their family members, things of this nature. So I'm sure if we go through all 1,500 names, there are going to be some people like we say, how the hell did that person get a commutation? Okay. But, this happens. So to address your question with specificity, if you're talking about former Luzerne County Judge Michael T. Conahan, I would ask it in that Kids for Cash scandal. He's known as the Kids for Cash judge. We may ask how did he get it? We may ask how did he get a pardon? Okay, I mean not a pardon, commutation. We may ask how did he get a commutation? But with most of these people, they had already served time in prison. He was sentenced to 17 and a half years in prison, and then they were released from prison during coronavirus to serve out the rest of their time at home. So,
Michael, here's what I'm bringing up specifically because of the fact that I know at least one person who did get a sentence that he should not have gotten because of this scheme that the judge was involved in. He died while he was in prison. So we think about nonviolence. Yeah, specifically the judge, nonviolent in terms of carrying that out. But ultimately, it was a violent act that was involved in terms of this person who died in jail.
Yeah, sure. So if it was up to me, this is probably somebody who I would not give a commutation to. Okay. But, at the same time, I do understand there are going to be some people just like if Biden gives a commutation to Marilyn Mosby, there are going to be a lot of people who say, why'd you get, he shouldn't have given a commutation to her. So there are always going to be detractors. Now, I disagree with this, but there are a lot of other ones that he gave commutations to who I would agree with. So, things like this happen, but the Kids for Cash, there are probably other judges out there that are doing the same thing. That needs to be a crackdown on that. That's part of this corrupt system. But, I would like to see a full overview of the 1,500, because there'll be a lot of people in there who we agree with who were given commutations. Yeah.
Rebecca, as you mentioned earlier, this does say a lot about the criminal justice system, that ultimately some people's kind of last out is making sure that somehow over these past 4 or 5 years, they've been able to get to the president, make their case. What does that say about the justice system, that ultimately this is the only way out for some people who more than likely didn't deserve all that prison time or have done what they need to do to get back into society and prove that they are, that they have been revived in terms of being back into the society and be back a good member of society?
Well, the criminal legal system is not just. Is one reason why I don't refer to it as the criminal justice system. It's about money. It's about access to power. And when we look at presidential commutations or presidential pardons, that is the ultimate access to power. And once again, like what I was trying to allude to earlier, unless you know someone famous or unless you get a large organization like the ACLU or like the Vera Institute to argue on your behalf and to use their political capital to go to the president and the president's staff to ask for your particular case to be pardoned or commuted, you're not going to get a sense of justice here. But I'm going to say what Michael didn't say. For that particular judge, I believe it was 2 judges in Pennsylvania who were prosecuted and convicted for the Kids for Cash. Anytime that anytime there's public corruption, specifically targeting young Black people, young Black men in this country, to throw them in prison for money, that is a problem. That is not someone that I agree with that should have been pardoned or got their sentence shortened. I don't care if they were let out for COVID or not. That needs to be permanently on that person's record. It needs to be a stain. And I will even go further and say, especially for those prisons, whether it's the state prisons or the other prisons that in this country that are for-profit prisons, that is disgusting. So it's one reason why I talk about this whole scheme as the criminal legal system and not actually the criminal justice system.
And Matt, let me wrap up with you. Is the process that people have to go through in order to get this pardon, in order to get this type of clemency, what type of process is that exactly?
Well, I mean, I think it's kind of what you've alluded to. They have to get access to the president's staff. They have to get approval. I think I'm not 100% positive, and one of my other panelists may elucidate me if I'm wrong. But I think people basically make their pitch. I think the president's staff vets who they want to give the commutation or the pardon to, and then it's issued. And it's interesting that you would ask me that, because what I was alluding to, talking about the Texas state law, it's actually something that you can file, and a judge way after the fact can decide to exercise clemency or give you clemency. So I think it should work more that way, where maybe the federal judges are imbued with the power and it doesn't have to get all the way to the top, because the reality is, unless you have Kim Kardashian or whomever advocating for you, you're just not likely to get to the president's staff, not likely to get on the short list, and not likely to be pardoned. So there needs to be an equity in terms of access and allowing people who would be good candidates for this to have closer access to the process, in my opinion. And one last thing I want to say, though, it's interesting that we always talk about this in the, quote, nonviolent context, but I think they should broaden their scope, because there are a lot of people who are in prison for violent offenses. And I'm not advocating that we don't take violence seriously, but that same kind of rehabilitation can occur even if you're a young person who's alleged to have committed a violent offense. I've represented people who have come out of prison after being convicted on a violent offense and have become extraordinary citizens. So I think they should have the same opportunity. And I think you've got to be careful with how you do that. But if we want to really make sure we extend commutations and pardons, it should be to everyone.
Yeah, no, you are correct. Those people certainly are rehabilitated. We see it quite often. We see it in media. We see it in the mainstream. We've seen movies about it. It certainly does happen. What you said was key, and that is equity of access. And with that in mind, I know that we're going to be seeing more of that, because more clemency, more pardons, more commutations to come. And when they do, we will be discussing them here. All right. Stay with us. We will be back after the break. You were watching Roland Martin Unfiltered here live on the Black Star Network.
All right, visit our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. You can support the African History Network, $, the AHN show through Cash App and through PayPal as well, paypal.me/the AHN show. So we have our Cash App link here right on the homepage of our website, as well as PayPal. So that helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, etc. Pay some of the bills. Register for the fantastic online history course I teach on Saturdays, 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Now, we do the sessions live. All the sessions are archived and recorded. You can go back and watch this anytime. And even after the course is over with, you'll still have access to watch the class. Ancient Kemet, one of the original names for Egypt, the Moors, and the Ma'afa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, what they didn't teach you in school. It's a 12-week online history course. It just started up. Click right here to register. And you can do debit card or credit card or pay through PayPal. We have our class lesson plan right here as well. There are over 200 slides that we look at in the class, 80 to 100 articles, 15 books that we reference. You don't have to buy any of the books. I'll show you excerpts of the book right on the screen. The video clips that we look at, etc. Interviews I've done with many of our scholars like Professor James Small, Professor Kaba Kamene, Anthony Browder, Runoko Rashidi, and more. Click right here to download the lesson plan, and you can we have a overview of the class right here as well. All right, look, we have to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, let's see here. So hopefully you all learned a lot today. Give us a thumbs up, give us a heart, give us a like on this broadcast. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world, because right now it's corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever, and we'll talk to you next time. Peace.